Did an earlier video where I said that Donald Trump's already lost Virginia, and I think he's already lost Colorado. But he's touting the fact that he believes that he can win Pennsylvania. I don't think so, because I think that Philadelphia and the suburbs around Philadelphia are going to make the call because they can overpower the rest of the state of Pennsylvania. And then there are other couple of pockets around the Pittsburgh area, I believe around the Erie area, and then I think potentially because of Vice President Biden's affiliation with Scranton, Pennsylvania, that they more than likely will go Democratic. You add all those together with the primary focus being on Philadelphia and its suburbs. If they go Democratic, he could forget Pennsylvania. But this is Martha Reeves' interview with everyday people outside of the Philadelphia area.
Republicans have not won the state of Pennsylvania. And look what you have. Your companies are all gone. Your jobs are all gone. You haven't won the state of Pennsylvania in 28 years. It's gonna happen. My guys are so sure of it. It's gonna happen.
Donald Trump promising victory in a state he really needs to win. And Pennsylvania, which has been reliably Democratic for decades, is now potentially up for grabs in this wild election year. We've been paying close attention to the state all along, starting in the West, where voters share their concerns about trade and jobs. Once the glow from the Democratic convention fades in Philadelphia, we'll go back there for a reality check on the enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton among crucial African-American voters. But this week, with Donald Trump in the headlines, I want to see how he's playing with a voting bloc he desperately needs, the affluent suburbanites of Bucks County, a mostly white community just outside of Philly. Obama won here in 2012 by a narrow margin. The growing concerns about Trump I heard this week are potentially a big deal. Take Beth Haney.
You voted in 2012 for who?
I voted for Romney.
And who are you voting for this time?
I'm not quite sure yet. Traditionally, I vote Republican, but I'm a little concerned with Trump's outbursts.
Is there anything he could do to bring you around?
Yeah, get serious and be a little bit more presidential, like he said he would.
If Trump can combine narrow wins in Bucks County and nearby Montgomery and Delaware counties with big turnout in his rural strongholds, he'll have a real chance to win Pennsylvania. Without these suburbs, the numbers don't add up. So Trump needs white-collar voters like Brad Bernstein.
Brad, who did you vote for in 2012, Obama or Romney?
Romney.
And who are you voting for this time?
Hillary.
Quite a change. Why?
Just the policies, and Trump's just a little too far out there for me.
Would this be the first time you voted for a Democrat?
In my lifetime, yes.
But Trump is winning over some former Democrats, like Eric Chamberlain, a Doylestown small business owner.
Tell me first who you voted for in 2012.
I voted for Obama. Okay. Yeah.
And you ever voted for Republican?
I have not, but I am this year. I'm voting for Trump this year.
And why are you voting for Trump?
I just don't trust Hillary at all. She wanted to be a politician her whole career, so staying in a marriage for that is something that bothered me a little bit too, I think.
Does anything bother you about Donald Trump?
Well, you know what? They're both horrible. I don't know who to pick, but they're both horrible. I just think that he'll surround himself with great people. That's what I think, because he wants to win. So I think his cabinet's going to be amazing.
I will gladly lend you.
Still, those comments about the Khan family put veterans and their families in a difficult spot.
I was very, very upset. I mean, my dad is a Korean War vet. It just broke my heart. His recent antics have just been really unappealing to me as a mother, a woman, and in general. I'm just not sure he's the right man for the job.
But in classic Bucks County fashion,
I'm not really sure that Hillary is the right answer. Now, I'd love to see a woman president, absolutely, but I don't know.
door knockers take note. Rachel McFillin of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, like many of her neighbors, up for grabs. Let's take a look now at some of the data behind those stories with the co-hosts of the podcast, The Pollsters, Republican Kristen Soltis Anderson and Democrat Margie O'Mara. Welcome, and let's get right to these numbers. Kristen, as you saw time and time again, I spoke with those voters in those critical suburbs around Philadelphia, and they said again and again concerns about Trump's temperament. Is that his greatest weakness?
It's a huge problem for him. This is an election where voters want change, and Trump certainly represents change. But the problem is he may represent too much change, too much of a risk, too dramatic a departure. 70% of people in this ABC Washington Post poll said that a Trump presidency, the idea of it makes them more anxious. So rather than addressing an anxious electorate with something that says, I'll make your future better, you can calm down, I'll be president, it'll be fine, he's making them more nervous.
And Margie, you agree?
Well, it's not just the anxiety, it's everything that's causing the anxiety. About 2/3 don't feel he's honest and trustworthy. About 2/3 feel he doesn't have the right temperament or personality. About 2/3 feel he doesn't have the right knowledge about foreign affairs. And he is weaker than Clinton on all of those dimensions, and that's been true for a while. It's not just this week. The polling has been showing that for a while. This is something that's really calcified, this image of him.
I also spoke to voters who are deeply skeptical about Hillary Clinton's honesty, trustworthiness. It's Benghazi, it's the emails of all of that. This has been a theme through her entire campaign. So how does she get beyond that? How do you read those polls?
Well, this poll actually shows some improvement there. She's now almost even fave on fave, which is an improvement over the last poll. It's certainly an advantage over Trump. Her honest and trustworthy numbers have improved over the last poll. Now, there's a question, is this something that's temporary? Is it because of a bad week Trump had or a post-convention bounce? Or is it something that could be on the mend and now permanent through November?
You read the polls the same way?
I think the other problem she's got to deal with is she in step with the mood of the nation? You've still got 51% of voters that are anxious about a Hillary Clinton presidency. And a lot say that they view her as being optimistic while they themselves are pessimistic about the future of things. I think she needs to tap into a little bit of the sense that, she may not just be more of the same. She is going to bring about some change to put some of those minds at ease.
Kristen, you saw some of those voters. Some of them seem to be saying it's a vote against her. So what do you see as the positive case for Donald Trump?
Oh gosh, the positive case for Donald Trump at this point, I think, is mostly about the economy. It's the issue in this poll where he comes the closest to tying Hillary Clinton on who do you trust more. And typically when he goes back to his business record, that's something that at this point in the campaign is still perhaps the strongest point for him. Now, it also presents a vulnerability. He's not been attacked on it quite strongly enough, I think. I think Democrats are likely to view that as an opportunity.
And you agree with that?
I mean, the irony here is he has a message that some people respond to. Maybe not a majority, but some people. I mean, the latest poll shows 40% agree with the Muslim ban that he's proposed. We did a poll that showed that we tested clips from the speeches in Cleveland and from speeches in Philly, and each candidate moved about the same amount after showing speeches. So Trump actually has a message that some people respond to. The challenge is he steps on his own good news with bad news and then steps on bad news with even worse news.
Okay, you heard that Romney supporters say she'd love to vote for a female president. Is she making gains there with women? Is that her greatest opportunity now?
Well, whether it's her gender or women in general, gender clearly is playing a role. If you look at the recent poll, Trump does about as well as Romney did with men, but with women, Clinton has a clear advantage over where Obama was in 2012, and with white women specifically. And among white women with a college degree, that's where some of the biggest gains in this poll from before the conventions. That's where Clinton has really moved the most. So gender really is playing a role.
Okay, I want to very quickly ask you to flip hats on this. You're a Democratic pollster. If you were advising Donald Trump, what would you tell him to do?
Well, first I would tell him, the first piece of advice would be to take some advice from somebody. It's clearly something he's not particularly interested in doing, but when you have a relationship that's damaged or a brand that's in crisis, you want to first acknowledge, hey, I hear you, I'm going to do things differently, and maybe that's where he should start.
And Kristen, your advice for Hillary Clinton?
I would start really focusing on that business record. That at this point is his strongest point, and I think that that's where, if I were them, I'd go after that the strongest and say, voting for Donald Trump is a gamble, and it's not worth the risk.
I think you're going to see a little bit of that upcoming. Thanks very much for joining us.
All right, so that's the situation with the voters in Pennsylvania and the analysis from ABC.